Today, I'm the founder and the CEO of Konfer. Konfer is my second startup. So before that, I have done I've had almost 3.5 decades of enterprise experience, out of which I spent building our DX continuum from 2012 to 2017, which got acquired by ServiceNow. And I ended up being the first AI head of ServiceNow. So built out literally their entire platform, which is probably a lot of customers of ServiceNow using today. Left ServiceNow before the LLMs became a hot commodity. I had understood that governance is going to become very important, because many of our ServiceNow customers were asking like, oh, you know what, I need to tell my customers how my AI models are working, so the transparency, the trust. And every customer of ServiceNow had a different sort of execution model. Like, even though the algorithm would probably be the same, but the way the data exist in different customers, somebody may have 100 incidents, somebody have 1 million incidents. The stuff which comes out in the models are different. So essentially, everybody had to have their own version of trust, transparency of what's working. That perceived to me an opportunity where this can be done in scale for every other customer, and it is a product by itself. And the co-founding team, which ServiceNow acquired, the same team came out and started Konfer. But instead of being about static data-related stuff, it is much more dynamic in nature. So you essentially will end up creating a lot of what today we are calling agents, which have the difference between agents and what happened before is that agents today have an ability to do reasoning. So they are going to try out different ways and of achieving the goal which they have been asked to perform. Now, because the things are doing stuff, it's just not what you're capturing. It's like actually what you're using it to execute a series of steps which can have a consequential impact on your organization. So consequential AI means that governance is an accountability you cannot outsource to anyone. With the rage of agents coming in, which has already, you can see how fast the things are moving. Tomorrow, there will be lots of agents deployed in an organization. The agents are going to proliferate. Somebody needs to know what these agents are doing and what kind of things they are not supposed to do and they're supposed to do. And hence, Konfer plays a role governing these agents. So our increase in velocity at how the agents are being created and deployed is going to be the biggest challenge around governance. And essentially, the things which you have to think about is, you have to first be able to have the discover, right? Where are these agents? Who's deploying it? Where has it been produced? What are they supposed to do? All that entire discovery is not new. But the discovery is very important because agents also interact. With the agents interacting, you literally have to have a kind of a hierarchical map of what's going on. And some will be transient, some will be permanent. So you have to capture all the information. So, and then apply different sets of governance principles and rules to do that. I take an example of a chatbot. A chatbot is a classic example. Now is going to go into an agent. A chatbot, typically is built out of things like you have to understand sentiment, you have to understand entity, you have to understand the relationship, what language it is, and so on and so forth, right? Now, but the same pieces can be used to create an employee chatbot, which serves your employees for doing HR-related work and other things. Or it can be used to create a customer chatbot, which helps your customers solve their problems. Just the data aren't going different. Now, when you build that out, you have different risks, because a problem with an employee is much more contained. Problem with a customer may have a bigger blast radius. So you got to understand that, and that's where that variety velocity still holds, but it's a much more dynamic in nature. C-suites probably have to support this path if they have to commit to it, because without the C-suites committing, the organization cannot follow the leadership, right? So essentially, they also have to understand. So the training is important. So there's an element of understanding training which needs to come in. But the C-suites have to understand and take charge of ensuring that they can now, follow through and ensure and actually empower the folks below them to do the right things. Because many a times people are not sure whether they should be doing it or not, because they do not know what at the highest level what the company's goals and charter are going to change because of all the way things are going. Or there could be things like, okay, this is a place where right now a human is taking a decision, I'm going to go to agent, it may have a ramification on the supply chain, the logistics, the finance. There's a whole bunch of other decisions which is business oriented, which might get affected. So it does need a strong participation from the C-suites.
So it's a top-down approach.
It is a top-down approach. I think governance cannot be a bottom-up. Yes, you empower the low folks below you to actually follow the discipline, but the discipline has to be set up through, in my opinion, you have to show the discipline for other people to follow and imbibe. So I was at a panel, I was talking something about this, and I left a line at the end of this panel saying, this is your TEDx moment. T stands for traces, E stands for explainability, and D stands for defensibility. So if you can anchor those three things in the stuff you're producing, you essentially will end up getting governance by design, and you'll be in a reasonably good spot to protect yourself. In my opinion, if governance is not done by design, it ends up being a cost center, because you'll end up paying the cost down the road. I'm talking about more of the agentic world, given that that is now the thing which is past, and it's not going to go back, right? It will happen. It's now in there. So you have to have the ability to produce a proof of work. So the proof of work is the one thing we measure. So anything you build out has to have as proof of work and what it is doing. So in the proof of work, you have to measure what it is doing and whether it's, and obviously when being done is being maps into other metrics as the system as, like it could be performance, it could be the outcome. Second is how much it took for you to create that stuff, right? You can't arbitrarily consume tokens, right? Tokens are expensive. That is because now you're instead of depending on machines and people, you're not depending on a service which is being consumed, and the volume of consumption is going to increase the budget. So budgeting becomes a big problem for the CFOs, because now you don't have a fixed budget. It can expand and shrink depending on who's doing what. That is second metric. And finally, tying those together, what is the outcome? So in an organization where it's a revenue producing organization, then is it actually producing revenue for me, and how fast it comes in? Because money in today is more than the money coming 6 months later or 12 months later.
Makes sense.
So these are three things in which you can tie engineering, you can tie operations, and you can tie then finance and board-looking metrics.